Hi, my name is Alana Pepper, and I'm taking Human Services of Counseling with a focus of marriage and family at Liberty University. This is Class 508 in Interpersonal Communications, and this is my Interpersonal Communications project. Just last night, I received a call from someone who needed some guidance and advice. And normally, when someone calls me and they start talking, I interject, I stop their talking, I have something to say, and this time I stopped and I bit my tongue and I listened. And when there was a pause in silence, I just sat there and waited and let her continue talking and get all of her feelings and her thoughts out. And then when she stopped, I said back to her what she was saying, her two main points of what she was trying to get across, and then let her continue talking through her whole problem and really helped her figure out how to solve it. And that's not usually how I would do things. Usually I would really try and give advice, and this is really one huge piece of what I learned in this project. My goal for this project is the following. As a teacher, I have the opportunity to help my students through difficult times. And my goal is to give them the opportunity to talk about situations with my guidance, help them solve their problems on their own. They'll be empowered to follow their own solutions, opposed to me giving them the solutions and them doing what I said. My DISC assessment was actually kind of interesting to me because what I thought other people wanted from me wasn't I, but in actuality what I am is a CIS. And I saw different parts of my personality, especially when I went back to work this week. I saw how my I was really very strong and my CIS was more at home, is exactly what the report said. But what I did learn is that I have the great ability to inspire others. I have an element of indecisiveness within me which holds me back, which is absolutely true. I hate choices. I don't like deciding. I'm very good with people. I can be funny or listen quietly, but I need to be more willing to listen appropriately, which is a huge issue for me, which I learn more and more throughout this course. Communication barriers during conversations for me is the following. I always want to insert my story. I'll be talking with someone and someone will be saying something. I'm like, wait, I have a great story that will match with that. And I will automatically insert my story, which I've noticed more and more that I'm trying not to do. Think of my answers while people are talking. So people are in the middle of a conversation with me, asking me my advice, and right away in my head, I start already coming up with an answer for them. Praising in the incorrect way, saying, oh my gosh, you look so beautiful today, or saying, I really like that shirt you're wearing. So making it more specific is definitely something that I was not good at. Not doing active listening or talking in a way that is clear to the talker. Not attacking or accusing, and appropriate praise, as I said before. Other communication barriers when I'm listening is letting the person talk without interrupting, guiding them with the appropriate questions or reflective listening, realizing that as a listener it is not my problem to solve, and trying not to say I understand, because clearly we don't understand the exact situation that the other person's going through. Resources and strategies that I found so helpful throughout the course. There were so many. The more that I read, the more that I wanted to change, the more that I wanted to implement within myself. But I focused on a few that are really going to be my focus. So Peterson discusses that one of the most important concepts is listening with biting your tongue or putting your hand over your mouth. And for me, that's really huge, is sitting in a conversation and really want to say something and really want to give my idea or my thought or my advice, but really holding back and biting my tongue. That was huge for me. Allowing the other person to talk out their problem and therefore end up solving their own problem. And when a person solves their own problem, they are more likely to react on it. And that's happened to me on more than one occasion, is that I notice that I'll give my advice and they'll be like, no, that's not going to work for me. And they really need to implement and talk through their own ideas so that when they come up with their own advice, they are really able to follow through with it because it's something that came from them and not from me. Another resource and strategy that I loved was a talker listening card, also by Peterson. And this gives the opportunity for a conversation to happen without anyone feeling attacked. People are able to express themselves appropriately. And more I find I tell my children, I tell the people that I work with, when we're in the middle of a conversation, let's just not make it attacking. Like whatever words you're using, don't use it to attack. Try and use other words. Like I tell my children now, that was an attacking phrase. Can you try that again with different words? So they're able to communicate without attacking the person who is who they're speaking to. Another resource and strategy that I really found really cool in the way they explained it was many different of the sources that we used explained it, but especially Stuart focused extensively on self-disclosure, of expressing myself when I'm in a relationship, really saying what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. And the key really that I felt that Peterson expanded even more on is being truthful in your expressing your actual feelings. Instead of saying, I feel something, say, I'm really feeling frustrated by it, and not using the word feel, but explaining what you actually are feeling. And another one was the flat brain tango, is that as soon as you get into a conversation with someone and you're throwing out something negative and the other person automatically is throwing out something negative and you're not getting anywhere, calling it the flat brain tango that Peterson discusses, and really getting stuck in your conversation and really trying to step back and not getting involved in that. Neither party is able to listen to them, you really can't accomplish anything, so really avoiding that flat brain tango. So for me, my action plan was a couple, but in order to implement anything Peterson says, you really have to take it slow. You need to pick one or two things and work on it and then implement some more. So my first idea is listening, and the article Learning to Listen was a journal entry I found. The author discusses the idea that communication is key, and especially active listening when interacting with parents in a school setting. So for me, that was really important, especially when I remembered a conversation from last year I had where a parent called me screaming, and I was like so flustered by what was happening and by her reaction, which is not normally, I don't normally get parents screaming at me, but a phone got taken away, so she was like hyper about it. And I realized that if I would now have that conversation, I just would have stopped talking, let her talk, doing reflective questioning, and the conversation would have gone much differently. Another action plan that I found in another journal entry from Marius, Micha, and Pernin discusses how useful games are for learning. I was talking to my social counselor, my social worker, the school guidance counselor the other day, and I was telling her I learned so much information, I don't know how to implement it all, what should I do? She said the best way is to do role playing. Let's sit, let's do role playing, we'll do back and forth, and that will be the best way for you to really implement all your learning skills. And I found it in this journal entry, how games and role playing is really a crucial part of learning how to learn. So in my conclusion, I am really totally grateful to my professor, Dr. Barker, and everything that she has taught me and the class. And I really have used these techniques already and have implemented into my life, into my daily routine, into my workplace. And I really find that these are really useful tips and guidance for helping other people, not just for me, but also for guiding others as well, especially because I do classes on communication with my students. I think this will be extremely helpful. And I found that one of the most relieving ideas from Peterson for me was acknowledging that it's the talker's problem, it's not mine. And for me that was huge, because a lot of times I'll have a conversation with someone and I'll think, oh my gosh, I have to solve their problem, what am I going to say to them, what am I going to do? And this was huge for me to realize it's not my issue, it's theirs. I'm there to guide them, I'm there to maybe, help them a little, but this is not my issue. I'm here to listen, I'm not here to solve the problem from them. And that really lifted the weight of people's issues and helping people off my own personal shoulders. And I found a quote that I really thought was cool. The word listen has the same letters as the word silent. That in order to be a good listener, in order to really properly listen to someone, do active listening as all of our sources talked about, then you really have to be silent, and you have to learn the sounds of silence, how to just sit there and be quiet and listen and introspect and help the other person really understand what they're going through by letting them talk it out. My daughter the other day was very flustered about shoes, and usually I say, well, these are your choices. You can wear your sandals or you can wear your sneakers. And this time I said to her, well, what are your options? And she went talking on for the next 5 minutes about, well, this is my option. I really need new shoes. I'll get them before school, I guess, so I don't really have to worry about it. But for now, I'll wear my sandals. And I couldn't believe it. I was totally flabbergasted. But it was very cool how once I handed that to her, she was able to take it and run with it and really solve her own problem. So this class has been incredible, and I've gained a tremendous amount, and I can't wait to implement it in the future.